boys and girls, welcome back to another Jazzman FPL video. This week's video we are going to be breaking down the best teams with the best double game weeks and game weeks coming up for game weeks 26, 27 and 28. And we're going to go over 9 players that I think you should be looking at to get into your team to make a big difference. So to keep this video as small as possible, let's get right into it and start talking about who has the best fixtures coming up. So, for the best fixtures, I went with the next 3 immediate game weeks. Because obviously game week 29 is going to be a sort of blank game week. There's going to be a few teams that have games in that, so that's going to be a key area to keep your eyes on. Trying to fill that game week with as many players playing as possible will make a bit of a difference. But I've also gone through the immediate 3 game weeks with the double game week this week and the subsequent game weeks coming up to see who has the best game weeks. Now, from my analysis and from the football I watch and the way teams are playing, I've gone against the grain a little bit and I'm going to say Manchester City have the best fixtures coming up for the next 3 weeks. Double game week of West Ham and Wolves is massive. Man City are going to tear both teams apart. Let's remember that West Ham got torn apart by Liverpool not too long ago. Wolves are in disarray as it is. Then a double game week. So they got a double 26 and then a double 27 of Man U and Saints. Now the Man U game is going to be tough, don't get me wrong, but I still put the money on them to win that game. Plus then you've got to come into a Saints team who have been battered recently. 6 games lost, only finally stopped it by Chelsea. You know, so that's 4 games in 2 weeks. They are by and far going to have the best 2 weeks in a row. And then to top it off, game week 28, Fulham. So that's 5 games in 3 weeks that you should be really focusing in on. In second place, I'm going to go down the line and say Spurs have the next best fixtures. Now, granted, Spurs have been playing a bit flaky and a bit shit lately, but they are still Spurs. They can still damage a lot of teams. And when you're coming up against Burnley and Fulham, you're going to have what better opportunity to fix that form slump. You've got Kane back in the team. You've got Son in there. You know, Gareth Bale started to look pretty good last night against West Ham. So maybe they play with a front 3 or something. I don't know. But that's not a bad little run. So theoretically, on paper, Burnley, Fulham in a double, and then Crystal Palace the week after in the 3, and then followed by the London Derby with Arsenal. Now, London Derby is going to be a bit hard, but I'll go over players that you should be looking to bring in. But second place, I'm going to give it to Spurs. In third place, I'm going to say Leicester have the next best set of fixtures. Arsenal and Burnley, that's a good double game week right there. You know, Arsenal's going to be a tough one, but I still would put my money that Leicester run through them. Brighton in game week 27, and then Sheffield United game week 28. Those 2, Brighton and Sheffield United, is going to be a bloodbath. They're going to walk through that. So if you just think of it in 3 game weeks and you take out the technical double of Arsenal, you've got Burnley, Brighton, Sheffield. I don't know what better fixtures you could ask for. You know, so that's very good. So they get 3rd spot. 4th spot and 5th spot are a bit more debatable, but I've gone with 4th place Aston Villa. Leeds and Sheffield United. There's going to be some goals in there. Now, granted, Aston Villa have been a bit off the boil lately, or back to maybe where they should be, and not been picking up as many points as they could be. But they've got quite a few games in hand. This is kind of going to be where they start picking up those points and maybe pushing back for the top 4 and being in that title race, in that top 4 race that everybody seems to think they could be in. But Leeds and Sheffield United, that first double game week is massive. They are going to score goals. There's going to be a fuckload of attacking chances in there. Follow that by Wolves and Newcastle. They have 4 of the single best fixtures on paper. The only reason they're not higher is because they are kind of not performing. Grealish a bit injured and things are going off a little bit. So they get 4th place for me. And then final place, I'm giving it to Everton. Saints and West Brom is a great double game week. You know, they've just got off the back of beating Liverpool, unfortunately. So, you know, they're going to be full of confidence. They're going to head into that Saints game and that West Brom game. That team's coming back. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's back in the team. Richarlison looked amazing. That team's going to look pretty good for this double game week. Stacked in the middle though, game week 27, you got Chelsea. So that is a tough game. Chelsea have been difficult this season, since Tuchel taken over anyway. So that's going to be a tough one in there. But then you follow it up with Burnley, which is a much more basic game. So Burnley are going to be big and strong and physical, but Everton are the team that can nullify that. You've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you're going to swing crosses in, you're going to have a good time. So, Everton get 5th on the ladder for that. So let's move into some players from each of these teams, at least from most of these teams anyway, that you should be looking into. So first up is the German Lionel Messi, and that's Gundogan. Man City's own little magician. He's been having a freaking field day of things lately. In the last 5 game weeks, 8.6 points per game. That's fucking ridiculous for a guy that costs 6 million. Now, 4 goals, 2 assists. Granted, he doesn't take many shots. He doesn't do much. Like, he's kind of coming from deep. But fuck me, he's always there, always banging in goals. So, you know, he has kind of been a little bit injured in the last few weeks. He's had a little bit off, but he did come straight back into the team. Pep sees him as a starter, a must-have in that team. You know, he managed to come back from injury and still have Aguero and Jesus on the bench instead of him. Now, with KDB coming back, I don't know the lineup. Maybe he's going to fall back a bit. Maybe he stays up there. But if you're banging this many fucking goals in the last few weeks, you keep that boy banging in goals. 31% ownership though means he is heavily owned, but he is super fucking cheap. 6 mil. So he's almost one of those guys that you must have. He isn't very differential rated. I'm giving him a 3 out of 10 on the differential rating. But when it comes to looking at the double game week coming up and the double game week after that for Man City, he is a guy you should almost definitely have in your team. If you don't have him in your team, you are going to miss out on some serious points. Now, another Man City guy is João Cancello. Now, this guy has been on fire lately. He hasn't been banging in the goals and the assists like he has previously earlier in the season, but 3 clean sheets in 5 games, 4.2 points per game, and just guaranteed minutes. He's brilliant. Now, like I'm going to say, is Man City, you are going to want to have 3 Man City players. If you don't have 3 Man City players for the next 2 weeks at least, where they've got 4 games in 2 weeks, and you don't have 3 Man City players, you are going to be missing out on fuckloads of points. So make whatever you do, take whatever negative you need to take to get 3 of them in. Take your pick. There is about 5 or 6 fucking Man City players you can pick if you really want to get technical. But Cancello is a very solid shout. 3 clean sheets in the last 5 game weeks, 25% ownership, 6 mil. Okay, it's a little bit expensive for a defender, but still 5 out of 10 on the differential scale. He is well worth looking into. And finally, the last guy I want to talk about from Man City is Kevin De Bruyne. Now, this guy has just come back from injury, but we all know what Kevin De Bruyne can do. Is this the weeks where the big guys turn back up from injury, they're all back, 10 games or so left to go in the season, and they all just go bang? Is this where it starts? Is this what's going to happen? Because this is what I can see with KDB. They've got 4 games in 2 weeks, and he's going to get fucking minutes. You're telling you right now. And we know the quality of this guy. He's going to get on the ball. He's going to score some magic. He's going to do some crazy shit. Don't look at his figures so much for the last few weeks because he's been out for quite a while. But look at his ownership, 11%. He is expensive, nearly 12 mil, but 7 out of 10 on the differential rating because of that ownership. He could be the guy that slips in, that nobody's paying attention to. He starts 90 minutes and just starts killing it. Now, next up are the Spurs boys. Now, Harry Kane has obviously been in a bit of shit form lately. Couple that with the injuries that he's had, and he's only scored himself 2.4 points per game in the last 5 game weeks. So, you're probably going to go, why are you talking about him? Well, obviously, they've got a good game weeks coming up. And obviously, if they're going to score some goals, it's going to come from Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. So, guess who's for the next guy that I'm going to talk about? But yeah, 26% ownership. He is very expensive, but he is also one of the most popular triple captained players for next week. He will be the number 1 triple captain player, I guarantee it. So 1 goal and 0 assists in the last 5 games isn't a great return, but he is coming back into this team. They do have very good fixtures, and it is Harry Kane. He will not stay down for long. So it's one to think about if you're looking to bring in some Spurs players into your team. As I said, guess who's up next? Heung-min Son. 3.6 points per game week in the last 5, 1 goal, 0 assists. Again, without his strike partner, Kane, Son has been having a bad time of it, but now he's back. I know they didn't look amazing against West Ham, but they were starting to click. They did almost get on the end of a few chances that Bale whipped into them as well. So, you know, Son almost scored by this ricochet that hit the post. So it's there. It's coming back. I would not be surprised if Spurs turn it around in these next few weeks. But Son is owned by 51% of FPL managers. That is a ridiculous number. So he gets only a 2 out of 10 on the differential rating scale. So if it's me and I'm looking to bring in 2 Spurs players, I'd be looking to bring in Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, knowing that Son is going to collect points and he is in everyone's team. So if he does collect points, a lot of you are going to be missing out on points if you don't have him. Now, up next are the Leicester lads, and obviously there are 2 to really talk about, with a third on the fringe. James Madison has been pulling the strings for this team for the last few weeks. 7 points per game in the last 5 game weeks is a phenomenal return. 2 goals, 3 assists, killing it. 16% ownership and only 7 mil. He gets a good 5 out of 10 on the differential scale. So if you're looking to bring in some Leicester players for this game week, Madison has to be at the top of that list. The next guy on that list is a guy that is ridiculously on fire, and that is Harvey Barnes. The young lad has been freaking killing it. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists in 5 games with 7.8 points per game. You know, he is well and truly up there with the highest points gatherers in the last few weeks, and only 10% ownership. So if you can make it fit, Harvey Barnes and James Madison in your midfield is going to be a phenomenal double up. 6.8 mil, 7 out of 10 on the differential scale. You know, he's a brilliant choice. Now, if you find yourself in a league though where most of the guys above you have Madison, Barnes is the guy to go for. I know I haven't said anything about Jamie Vardy, but very expensive. So I've already gone with Kane rather than Vardy. So that's my choice. I'd rather pick Kane and Son versus Vardy and Madison or Barnes. So Barnes and Madison seems to be the combination that nobody is going to be keying up with, because it's going to be difficult to have both of them in the team, or they're just going to go one or the other. But if you're going to go one or the other, Barnes is the guy. If you're going to double up on the 2 of them, you can really cash in on these guys. When it comes to talking about Aston Villa, there's really only one guy that you've got to talk about. That's Jack fucking Grealish. 4.8 points in the last 5 game weeks isn't amazing. They have been struggling, but granted, they have been off the boil a little bit, and they have got like 3 games up their sleeve to play. Still, when they're playing bad, he's still getting a goal and 2 assists in the last 5 games. It's still a ridiculous return. He is owned by quite a few people, 35%, but he is only 7 mil. So 5 out of 10 he gets on the differential scale. But if you're looking to get in Aston Villa players, he must be the first name on your list to get in. Now imagine that midfield of Gundogan or KDB, Madison and Barnes, Grealish. That there is a stacked little midfield. And throw Son in there with Fernandes. Oh my god, if you can bench boost, you've got yourself a winning little fucking midfield. Now, I'm not going to mention any Everton players particularly, but you've got your obvious 2 choices there. You've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. They're your big 2 guys that I'd be picking from. I wouldn't be bothering with James. You could maybe go with your Digne because he's been having a bit of a good time lately. But there is a guy that I want to focus in on, and that is a guy from Leeds, Rafinha. Other than, in the last few weeks, other than Gundogan and Fernandes, other than those 2 players, this guy has scored as many points as them. Rafinha from Leeds. Now, they don't have an amazing double game week or anything like that. I don't think they've got a double game week, but they do have a game in game week 29. So if you're thinking ahead and playing 4D chess and getting that little bit further ahead, Rafinha is a great option to keep in your team. 5.4 mil, 9.9% ownership, a goal and 3 assists. Everything seems to be going through him at the moment. If you're looking to make a bit of a punt, he might only have a single game week for the next 3 game weeks, but he will be useful in game week 29. You won't have to make any major transfers. He's definitely one to look at getting into your team, especially if you're bringing in some big hitters and you need to make a cheap downgrade. There's your guy. Alright, and that's it for this video, guys. So hopefully I found out some key players for you, giving you a few little tips, pointed out some points and stats that you guys haven't actually looked at yet, and make a bit of a change up in your squad. For those guys sitting in the bottom echelons of their little mini leagues, there's some good little combination plays here. Like I said, the 2 Leicester boys, maybe even changing up. You've got to have 3-man City players, but maybe a different version of the 3-man City players. You've got guys like Sterling I didn't mention, Foden I didn't mention. You've got obviously Jesus and Aguero coming back into that team. You've got Stones and Diaz in the back line. There's so many choices. You can pick any of them. You know, for me, I would be having Gundogan as a lock, and I'd be having either Cancello, Stone, or Diaz. So it's one of those three. And then you've got the third guy as a punt. Take a Sterling, take a KDB, take an Aguero, take a Jesus, take a Foden, whoever it is, you've got to have 3 Man City players. If you take anything away, that is the thing to take away from this video. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to leave a like, a subscribe, and even a comment or some shit. Just give me something, and I will see you guys in the next video.